best with the period of time that we've been given. Life places a high premium on certain things, and one of those things is scarcity. Life makes things that are scarce very important to it. Life determines that when things are scarce, the price goes up, and they are very significant value to the people who find it. Life also places a strong desire for things that are scarce. Things that are scarce are very much desired, even though they do not fulfill or meet any necessary needs. For example, Nigerians don't have snow, so we are willing to travel miles away on what we call a holiday just to see what snow looks like and to touch it and engage the experience of snow. Life places a high premium on things that are scarce. It causes attraction. We are attracted to things because they are scarce. We even place a high pedigree on things that are scarce. If you look for Harvard School graduates or presidents of nations, they may not necessarily be very special people, but because not everybody can become president, we place a high premium or pedigree on those people because they're scarce. So life values scarcity very highly, and scarce resources are very prized resources in this life. This may not necessarily be a talk as much as it would be an invitation. An invitation to you and I to join the most scarce of people in Nigeria. An invitation to you and I to join people that are highly prioritized, highly prized, highly effective, of high pedigree, and that pull a lot of attraction. They are called the uncorrupted, the uncorrupt, and the incorruptible. Transparency International describes corruption as the abuse of entrusted power for personal or private gain. The abuse of entrusted power for personal or private gain. Life is not just about the destination. Life is also a lot about the journey. The how did you get to the destination? The how did you arrive at your success? What did you do along the way to achieve those achievements that you are very proud of? Did you spend more than the achievements are in your journey towards success? Corruption is very endemic in our society. Nigeria is ranked the 144th country out of 177 countries on the corruption index. Number 1 being the least corrupt, number 177 being the most corrupt. And what that means to you and I is if you were to take the 177 and divide it into 4 equal parts. The first group of countries would be between number 1 and number 44. The second group between number 45 and number 88. Nigeria wouldn't be there. The third group between 89 and 132. Nigeria wouldn't be there. The last group between 133 and 177. That's where you would find our country. Meaning that individuals who are not corrupt are very scarce to find in Nigeria. They are not available in government. They are not available in business. They are not available in family. The uncorrupted are very difficult to find in Nigeria. The definition of corruption says that it is the abuse of entrusted power. Entrusted power means that it is impossible to be corrupt without power. Whether it is a lecturer insisting to gain personal gains before he does his office of lecturing, or whether it's a manager insisting to get personal gains before he does his job of managing, or whether it's a public office holder insisting for personal gains before they do their office. Every time we abuse the power that we've got because of a personal goal that we get, we have engaged in corruption. And corruption, by virtue of life, abuses abuses the power. Abusing the power means that whatever is gained as a result of a corrupt practice will and must be lost. Whether it's today, later, or it's tomorrow, or it's the day after. Whatever is gained must and will be lost. And that is why you see many rise to a high position, pinnacle of their careers, and then come crashing and tumbling down sooner or later. I admit, corruption has a strong temporary gain. Makes us feel larger than life, on top of the world, powerful and financially secure. But that same security, by the very fact that it was obtained by corruption, will be the very thing that destroys everything you and I have worked for. I know of a gentleman who was some controller in the NPA a few years ago, and he amassed so much wealth by corruption. He would say to one of my friends, "You can't believe it. I make almost 2 million naira every day. Every single day." Well, not long afterwards, he had so much money, so he resigned from the NPA and set up a business in Abuja. It was a real estate company, and he bought some property, made more money. So he bought some more, he made some more money. And then he realized, I could go very big. And so he went to the FCDA and bought a huge plot of land on the way to the airport. And then he began to sell plots of land there developmentally. So you buy the empty plot with some money, and then he begins to develop the whole thing. Sometime in the course of the development, some years had passed and business was doing well. The FCDA marked out that entire property and said to him that it was illegally obtained. He said, "No, it can't be. I have the seal of hope." And he showed all the things that were required, but they stuck to their guns. He took them up on their task. They took bulldozers to the estate. Every fence, wall, building, property was broken and destroyed. He lost not only everything in business, he lost his marriage as well. Corruption never benefits you. I sat with the global marketing director of Samsung from South Korea a few years ago. And we sat outside his hotel room in this hotel, and he said to me, we talked for a while, and he said to me, "Samsung is a global organization today," and I said, "Yes." And he asked me, "What do you think is the source of our expansion and dominance?" So knowing I was speaking to one of the top 3 or 5 people in Samsung Global, I began to list everything that we know. Operations management excellence. He said no. I said human capital development. He said no. I mentioned foreign direct investment. He said everything we know. He said no. And then I said, then what is the trick? What is the secret of Samsung? And he asked his PA for a white piece of paper. And he wrote on the piece of paper 1960, and he put a dash and wrote $40. And then he wrote 2010, that's the year before, the year we're having the meeting, $162 billion. And he turned the piece of paper and pushed it to my side of the table. And he said to me, "Our secret is integrity. I have worked for Samsung for 17 years. And not one of those years have I influenced a supplier, a staff, a government official, or anybody to do anything to move our business forward. $162 billion is how big we are today. We have stuck to this one principle, and it has built our business from $40 US to $162 billion. I'm sure many of us can afford $40 today. Corruption destroys excellence. You see, when you have an easy way out, you always take it. Ever noticed how the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line? It always looks like you will lose when you decide not to be corrupt. It always looks like you will be the last to arrive when decide you wouldn't be corrupt. It always looks as if your business will be the least successful if you don't bend your principles and bend your rules. A shortest distance between 2 points always remain a straight line. The straighter you are, the quicker you get to your destination. We began a business about 5 years ago, and we were told in Lagos that the language of business was lies, and the key to building your business quickly was to make sure that you played the game. We couldn't do some of those things, so we said, well, if we die, we know we tried. I'm here to tell you, not having done business in South Korea, in London, or in Washington, having done business right here in Lagos, we have broken into companies that are the biggest in their sectors with margin. In the banking sector, the biggest. In the telecoms, the biggest. In government, some of the biggest. Without paying anybody a bribe. I spoke to a lady who had worked for a company that is in our sector for about, they've been around for about 20 years, 1994, about 20 years. And when she asked my staff, how old is your organization? And my staff said, we're about 5 years. And she said, how could you do all you've done in only 5 years? Will you stay uncorrupted, or will you follow the corruption game? There are 3 classes of people that I have an invitation for. The first is the uncorrupted, the next is the uncorrupt, and the final is the incorruptible. The uncorrupt is the gentleman or lady who has lived in a protected zone. She's been in university, she's been in NYC, or she's just gotten her first job. And he has never quite really been faced with a decision to be corrupt or not. By virtue of the fact that corruption is tied to entrusted power. They do not or have not yet received huge entrusted power based on an office, and so they've never really been faced with the decision to be corrupt or not to be corrupt. Many of us say that the Nigerian government is filled with corrupt people. But one day I was asked a question, do you think all of the people who ended up corrupt in government decided when they would get into government they would be corrupt? The answer is a big no. Many of them were uncorrupted like you and I. People who have never really been faced with a decision in corruption or not. The second group of people is the uncorrupt. The uncorrupt are different from the uncorrupted. They are in management positions, deputy management positions, general manager positions, but they have a good livelihood. They're not worried about the rents, they can pay it. They're not worried about the children's school fees, they can pay it. And generally, they're not greedy. So they don't ask people to give them any money. They transact their business and official duties professionally, and they never quite ask anybody for anything. That group of people has not yet been threatened. If a decision is not yet made, we have to wait to see what will happen if the pressure mounts. And so that's not the invitation I'm giving you today. It's not to the uncorrupted, it's not to the uncorrupt. The uncorrupted and the uncorrupt have not yet taken a decision. What will I do when I'm faced with a question to be corrupt or not? I'm inviting you to the highest level, and that is the incorruptible. The incorruptible are people that decide way before the offer is made. Come rain, come sun, I will not will hold my integrity and I will not be corrupt. If I will lose the business, so be it. If I will lose the contract, so be it. If my car will be impounded over the weekend, so be it. But I have decided I will not be corrupt. Those group of people are highly desired, of high pedigree. They are highly prized, and they are scarce in Nigeria. Whatever your decision is today, 15 years down the line, 25 years down the line, 45 years into the future, we may not see you as having accomplished so much, having possessed so much, having grown that much, and having done that much. But one thing we will see, your decision today will determine the hundreds or the thousands or the millions of Nigerians that will be influenced and impacted positively by what you have chosen to do. My invitation today is that you will join this elite group of people, because you must stand for something. If you don't stand for anything, you will fall for everything, because you fell for one thing, and that is that you fell for corruption. If you don't stand for anything, you will fall for everything, because you fell for one thing, and that was that you fell for corruption. If you don't stand for anything, you will fall for everything, because you fell for one thing, and that was that you fell for corruption. Thank you.